It is enough now, O God, take away my life, for I am no better than my ancestors. It's kind of like my version of, where's some property in Canada that I can go to, I'm going to give it up. Even Jesus was just a carpenter from Nazareth, the son of Mary, who wasn't respected and could do no deed of power in his home village because, after all, they had seen him grow up. They knew his brothers and sisters. They knew he was a nobody from Nazareth, just like them. Who is this guy who thinks he can make a difference? The point is that none of these, the great prophets of Israel, chose to be prophets. None of them were superhuman. On their own, all of them were essentially powerless and unqualified for the job in their time. But all of them were also called by God. They were not called to be superhuman or even effective. In fact, many of them saw their work and their words fail in their lifetimes. Instead, they were called to be faithful, to simply trust, to stand, to go, and to speak the truth as they heard it and understood it within their hearts. What kind of person are we called to be in times like this? Well, today's Franciscan benediction, which we used for the call to worship, and I don't know where that came from. I can't find it anywhere, so it may not be from Franciscans at all. I don't know, but that's what they call it, Franciscan benediction. But it invites us, gives us some qualities to think about. It invites us to a restless discomfort, to live with restless discomfort about easy answers, so that we may seek truth boldly and love from deep within our hearts. It invites us to let ourselves feel holy anger at injustice, not so that we are angry people all the time and prone to outburst, but a different kind of anger, so that we may work tirelessly for justice out of a deep sense of the inequity and unfairness of the world. It invites us to share, to hold, and to share the gift of tears for those who suffer, so that we may reach out our hands to comfort them and transform their pain into joy by sharing their pain with them. It invites us, as we heard, to have just enough foolishness to believe that we can really make a difference in this world, so that we are able, not by our own power, but by God's grace, we are able by God's grace to do what others claim can't be done. What are we called to do? What does it mean to be a person of faith, a Christian, a follower of Christ? What should that look like? Of course, the answers to those questions will be somewhat different for each one of us. The good news is that the place those questions lead us, the path our lives will take, has never been up to us on our own. My calling and yours doesn't depend on me or you. And the measure of our lives is not our effectiveness or our power, but our faithfulness. Our willingness to trust in the power of God's love working in us, wherever that might lead us. As a struggling apostle Paul said, he heard these words deep in his being, "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness." And in response, Paul declared, "I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore, I'm content with weaknesses, for whenever I am weak, whenever I recognize that I have to trust in the power of God's love within me, and not my own strength or ability or talent alone, then I'm strong." We never decided to become dissidents, wrote Václav Havel. We simply went ahead and did certain things that we felt we ought to do and that seemed decent to do. Nothing more and nothing less. And that, sisters and brothers, is what we're called to do too, just like those who went before us. To simply dare to do the things we feel we ought to do and that seem decent to do, and to let those things guide our lives, come what may. In the middle of his longest time in prison, from 1979 to 1983, for 4 years, at a moment when everything about his life and the life of his people remained uncertain, Havel wrote those words that we often use in our service in letters to his wife, Olga. And this is what he wrote: "It is I who must begin, here and now, right where I am, not excusing myself by saying that things would be easier elsewhere, without grand speeches and ostentatious gestures, but all the more persistently seeking to live in harmony with the voice of being as I hear it and understand it within me. As soon as I begin to do that, I suddenly discover to my surprise that I am neither the only one, nor the first one, nor the most important one to have set out upon this road. Whether all is really lost or not, Havel wrote from his prison cell, depends entirely on whether or not I am lost. It is I who must begin, here and now.